our children are so lucky. This generation is so lucky also that it's so easy for you to start learning new things. There's apps, there's Google, there's YouTube, it's everywhere.
On TikTok or Instagram, for example, right? Very short videos, and in that 1 minute, you can learn something.
Yeah.
And that's also how I started that 1 minute science series.
I always say this simple quote: what gets you to level 1 will not get you to level 2.
Hello everyone, so I'm Constance and welcome to Canteen Chats. The first question, I don't want to start off with a question, but I think I gotta get the ball rolling with something, right? I just want to know, when was the last time you guys learned something new?
Wow.
I feel like this is a bomb kind of question, it's like I just dropped the bomb on you.
When was the last time you learned something
Maybe
new?
I start first.
Okay, go ahead.
I think for teachers, we are always learning something new every day. Every lesson that I go in, whatever experience that I get out of it, when you come out of it, there will be something new insights that you gain. Yeah. So, for example, you plan a lesson. How do your students respond to your questions? Whether the demonstration or the approach that you use actually works. So every lesson is a lesson, not only for the students, but for yourself.
That's true. So for most of us, we're very used to, learning being in the classroom, going for exams and all of that. But I feel that also learning is something that also helps us to grow, adapt, and to thrive, and that should never stop. For Nurul and I, social media, the game has changed so much.
It's always something new, and I always feel like, wait a minute, what is this new app? And you have to learn.
And how do I catch up with it? How do I change the idea of working with
content creation?
Yeah, it's so different now. And so today we're going to break down lifelong learning and with stories of all of you. So let me just introduce all our guests today. We have Jansen Tan, who shared already.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Jansen Tan, he is a chemistry teacher at Gan Sing School who makes learning very fun with social media as well. He started a YouTube channel to prove it.
I'll tell you more about that later.
Yes. Okay, we also have Samantha Ng. She is a career futurist helping people reinvent themselves for the jobs of tomorrow. This sounds so interesting. I don't really have an idea of what it is, but we will go into that. And also a very, very familiar face, Nurul Aini.
Hi.
She is here as a parent today, sharing how she raises her kids to be curious and to be independent learners as well. Yeah, so let's go beyond the textbooks, shall we?
Yes,
Definitely.
Let's go.
Yeah, so Jansen, you see firsthand how students learn, and how do you get them to learn beyond your textbooks or the textbooks that the school provides?
Okay, I think first is we need to inspire in students this sense of curiosity. Yeah, and to let them know that knowledge goes beyond the boundaries of the classroom. And it begins by them having questions, asking questions. And this is one aspect that I always encourage in my classroom for students to ask questions. Such that they wonder about the world rather than to rely on so-called model answers. Yeah, I think this spirit of curiosity and wanting to find out more is very important in this world.
I believe so. It's like having the mindset of a child, like a very young kid. They would always ask questions, be it or not is silly, because to them they don't have a concept of what is silly.
Yeah, and that's one area that I always factor in when I plan my lessons, such that when they learn something, they see the relevance and how it applies to their everyday life. And we call that real world context.
Correct. The way you put it, it makes it easy to learn instead of just reading it off the book, right? And just trying to absorb.
Right. Yeah. So this mode of teaching has also changed over the years. So my school, we now have the iPad ecosystem. So I can bring my iPad into class and cast it wirelessly. So I can walk around the class.
Wow.
And teach.
See, technology.
And teachers, we have to keep learning as well, how to use the new tools and to engage our students.
Yeah, and I think not just teachers or even parents, like for me, I feel like I need to keep learning as well in order to keep up, with whatever technology there is as well. And the way the children learn, for example, right now you're telling me you guys are using iPad. I don't know that. Now I know, so I can have conversations with my children about it, And I believe that to cultivate or to make the children learn all the time, we ourselves, we need to be curious as well. We need to ask questions as well. And I think what I do for my children is I allow them to ask non-stop questions and I try to answer as much as I can. But of course, I don't have the answer to everything.
Yes.
So that's when it gets interesting. That's when we're both fighting to find out.
The impact that the home environment can have on the child. So you have very rightly pointed out, the support that you give at home. I think that another factor is also the resources that you provide to them. I remember that when I was young, my mom actually bought me a science kit. A slime making kit. And I think that was one of the starting point that really got me very intrigued into science because they just give you all the different chemicals with a little instruction booklet and you get to mix things together.
Yeah.
That was the starting point of my entire chemistry journey, I would say.
Oh,
So
see,
that's
you
where it
never know.
kickstarted.
Never know, yeah. So
never know.
from the environment and the kind of resources that you provide them with at home.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Samantha, you are a career futurist. It sounds so weird saying
It
this.
sounds so like
Futuristic.
future.
Future, yeah. It
So
sounds
what's the
like
future of our career?
it sounds like it's a job like from
Yeah,
the
I have a
future.
magic ball.
So what does that mean? What does that
Okay.
even mean?
Well, all right, so I'm a career futurist, but my primary job, I'm a career coach and counselor. So I basically work with a lot of my clients when it comes to career transition or career performance. The futuristic here is not about predicting what is going to happen, but rather sit down with yourself and align yourself with your values, your interests, your personality and skill set, and plan for, so future got two meanings. Either you plan for the future world, or instead you could just be planning for your future self. So I always share with people, think of career planning like planning for your holidays. Right, at the end of the year, we always know that 2025, when are the long weekends, and then you start planning for it.
Yep.
It's the same every time. At the end of the year, do a career health check. Okay, take a look at how far you have come. This is a very good time to update your resume.
This is so
this is
interesting
good.
because
Yeah.
I only remember like financial health checks. It never occurred to me we should do a career health
Yes.
check.
And when
which
you think
is so
of it like
important.
planning for a holiday, then it becomes more fun, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, right? When you say planning for holiday, it's straight with my eyes.
But planning for career can be fun because when we talk about lifelong learning, when you are re-evaluating your career, you will be aware that, there are certain gaps that I want to fill, right? So I think that's where lifelong learning can come in because you wouldn't know what to learn if you do not know where you are.
And speaking of career exploration, right? In fact, as a teacher, we also try to get students to think about careers at their age. But I think as a student, you probably would feel that career is still very far away.
You only want to play.
Yes, that's
But actually,
right.
thinking about the career gives you a goal in mind and
yeah.
it helps you to plan your post-secondary education pathways.
Yeah.
So we do spend quite a bit of time during what we call character and citizenship education lessons to actually teach them about work values, for example, to find out their interests and like what Samantha actually does with her clients, to give them some guiding questions to discover their passion and explore what are the possible pathways I can take after I graduate.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing more and more parents very involved in their children's planning. It's not just like, you need to go to this university, you need to do this course. It's now really like, what do you like to do? How can I help you to grow your strength, grow your talent, which is amazing.
It's inspiring.
And I think it's also a learning for parents. Parents is also doing lifelong learning because we are brought up so traditionally.
Yes.
I'm not saying that parents is wrong to think certain way because it worked for them during that time. But because time has changed, we have to change with it as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In fact, in the workplace, certain companies, they also talk about having free time for employees to go and take on certain projects, initiate certain things, or just learn something that of their interest.
Like learning a new language.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah. Then sometimes what they do is they will encourage sharing. So after they learn, they have to do a presentation or become a team bonding activity.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually it actually reiterates the fact that at school, learning doesn't stop in school,
Yeah.
but it also
it's beyond that.
continues as long as you live, basically.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, personally, I believe Nurul feels the same way. Like social media, every time we're scrolling through social media, we're always learning new things. These digital apps that just help us learn so many things outside of school, right? So yeah, like virtual classes and everything.
Correct.
So yeah, how technology has changed learning.
It has lowered the barrier to learning, you can do very short snippets like on TikTok or Instagram, for example, right? Very short videos, and in that 1 minute, you can learn something.
Yeah.
And that's also how I started that 1 minute science series, where I showcase a science concept in 1 minute and put it on Instagram.
You know, you have a YouTube channel, right? What are some of the interesting like experiments that you've done?
Speaking about curiosity and its importance for lifelong learning, on YouTube and Instagram, I actually started this 1 minute science series where I put up a 1 minute video explaining a science concept. And actually, many of them, you can try them at home or you can see them around in your everyday life. For example, there was one where I made black ink from green tea. Yeah, so green tea has certain
ink
compounds.
Is in green tea.
Green tea, the green tea that you drink. Yeah, by adding ions into it. And iron, you can find it in many sources. Yeah, so there's a chemical reaction that goes on that turns the whole thing entirely black. Yeah, if you go back into the history of how ink is being made, that is one of the earliest recipes. Yeah, so you can actually write with the ink.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think children attention span is very short.
Very short.
And I think this kind of videos will really also interest them. And the way that teachers teach in school is also so different from our time. It's more interesting now. You know, my children comes home and says things like, oh my gosh, today in maths class, my teacher taught me this formula. Mommy, do you know it's actually so easy to do this? I'm like, oh, well, during my time it was hard.
Yeah, during our time it's chalkboard.
Yeah.
Look at teacher, look at our paper.
Memorize.
And then just like that.
Yeah, so I have to say they are so lucky. Our
They are
children are
very
so lucky.
fortunate,
This
yeah.
generation is so lucky also that it's so easy for you to start learning new things. There's apps, there's Google, there's YouTube, you know, it's everywhere. And I think that learning actually builds confidence as well, you know.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure if you have heard of this MOE Swiss roll thing.
No.
I think Nurul will be
that?
very excited, the Swiss roll. Yeah.
It just sounds like I want to eat now.
So MOE, we have this framework for 21st century competencies, which we very affectionately call the Swiss roll. So it's actually a concentric circles, and it details what are the competencies that are necessary for our students to thrive in the future world.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the 21st century skill that is very important will be, for example, critical, adaptive, and inventive thinking. Yeah. Right. And through CCAs and even in classes, we try to find platforms for students to develop such competencies.
Right.
Yeah. So for example, right, in class, instead of teaching from the textbook, you can kind of ask students, you know, is this the only way to solve a problem? Yeah. So we no longer go by the so-called model answer route. So if this is the answer, are there any alternative answers? Or if I have this alternative solution, what are its pros and cons? Yeah. So these are ways we can kind of develop critical thinking in our students.
No wonder, you know, I have my child coming home saying that because she came home with at the end of primary 5, if I'm not wrong, I was cleaning her cabinet and I found that her textbooks are all so clean. It's like untouched. So I asked her, teachers don't use textbooks? She said, no, mommy, we don't really use textbooks in school. I said, really? How do you learn? Teacher will ask questions. So that's what you mean? Is that what you mean?
There are a few reasons. Probably because we don't want students to bring heavy textbooks to school.
Okay.
So on the welfare
All right,
standpoint, we do still encourage students to read up the textbooks. That I think provides a necessary and a baseline level of understanding of the content. We try to reserve class times for discussions as well, so that they get to hear each other's ideas, to express their viewpoints, and to this is one area that it helps them to develop the communication skills.
So on that note of like preparing students for life and not just exams, so we have a short clip here from Lion Moms, and in it I play Principal Chang. So she is always trying to it's very difficult for her as a school leader because she's trying to prepare the students for life and not just exams. So it's kind of like a character kind of development that she's trying to also build and instill in these kids. So yeah, let's have a look and you guys can let me know what you think.
Principal! Good morning, class.
Good morning, Miss Chow.
Sit. I'll be filling in for Mr. Quek today, so please turn to page 30 of your science books.
Miss Chang.
Wow, Constance, you have the aura of a teacher. I must say.
Really?
Of course. I'm sorry. Don't be afraid to ask any of your teachers to wear this, okay? We're not doing our jobs if you can't hear us. Now, have I put this on correctly?
She has a hearing disability.
Good. All right, page 37, everyone.
She's much better than Mr. Quek.
Kai. Could you come here, please? Can you please explain to the class, how do Earth's poles create magnetic forces?
It's not in our textbook, Miss Chang.
Amos, come and join us. Didn't you say Mr. Quek's teaching was too easy? Surely you would know the answer. It's not easy to be standing here. It takes huge responsibility. And whoever takes it on deserves your utmost respect and support. That's how you bring out the best in your teachers, in order for them to bring out the best in you. Amos, Kai, thank you for helping me with this lesson. To your seats, please.
That is such a good lesson.
Yeah, I really like how she brought them to the front for them to experience it firsthand instead of just telling them what's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we always say that values are often caught, not taught. Yeah, so we have to catch those teachable moments. To teach them what's right and wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's a good example of like not learning from textbooks. You need to learn to build character as well. And I think that's what our Grace Chiang did.
Principal Chiang has done.
Interesting perspective is that there is always something you can learn from everyone.
Exactly. And in order to learn, sometimes we need to unlearn because we have our set ways of doing things, right? And in order to move on with times in this ever-changing world, we need to unlearn certain things with apps. There's always new apps coming up, right? And how your teaching style was different back then before the use of, iPads now.
Correct.
And technology. So I think you as a teacher also, you had to change your way of teaching from using the OHP, okay, maybe not OHP, but that thing, what we're using,
The visualizer.
the visualizer
and now you're
from
using an iPad, right?
Yeah, so the modes of teaching has really evolved over time. And teachers, we also do need to have the humility to want to develop ourselves to pick up these new tools.
So even though they are teachers, they are still also constantly learning.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
They're learning how to handle children like that as well. And that's a skill as well. So Samantha, I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest mindset shift that people need to make about lifelong learning?
I think that most importantly, we need to understand, I always say this simple quote, what gets you to level 1 will not get you to level 2.
That makes a lot of sense.
All right. So the skill sets that you have now, the knowledge that you have now brings you to one stage of your life. Now, if you are someone who is looking to progress, you are looking to make an impact, you are looking to enjoy certain parts of your life, you want to move on to the next stage, you have to acquire new skills and new knowledge. And that embodies lifelong learning. That embodies that's where you need to be humble enough to say that, okay, I don't know certain things, I need to learn. All right, I remember there was during COVID, I was learning how to use TikTok. So I was trying to hop onto this thing called edutainment. Right, and then I was figuring out with TikTok and then trying to video. So the challenge to myself was to record a minute TikTok video every day for as long as I can. Right, so then my friend's child saw me on TikTok. And that's like Samantha 姐姐.
Oh.
Then when she met me on actual person, she like, Samantha 姐姐, I think your video can be better.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she say, you know, you always press start and start talking. People can see that you press start. You have a timer.
You have to, oh.
Then she taught me those
Smart.
functions. So I feel that, you know, when she approached me, firstly she was so helpful. She was so willing to share her knowledge, and I was very touched. I was like, sure, can you teach me? And then we start learning to do some TikTok videos together. So every time she see me, she wants me to do dance move with her. Right? But now she has grown up.
It's a trade-off lah. she gives you tips, constructive criticisms, and then you give her back with the dance.
But here's the thing about learning, right? Whoever, like Jansen have pointed out, whoever that we met, there's something that we can learn from each other. So, and when it comes to working with my clients, I always remind them, there's this thing called half-life of skills. So radioactivity, you have half-life of certain chemical. So half-life of skills just means that the time taken for the value of your skills to become half of its value. So for example, technical skills is about 2.5 years. So now you have 100% at your technical skill. After 2.5 years, your skill set in the value market, in the market value is only it becomes 50% after 2.5 years.
Oh wow, that's a very interesting way of putting it.
Yeah, so when we talk, so in the professional world, you talk about half-life of skills. If you don't constantly learn, you will no longer be relevant. So I met so many unfortunate experiences with my client. So sometimes when I look at their resume, beautiful track record. But why are they at the place they are at now? Might be retrenched, might be laid off, might not be able to find a job after 1 year, 2 years. Why? So when I look at their resume, it's really good. They have many years of experience. But in today's context, we no longer look at number of years of experience you have, but rather how many years of relevant experience you have.
That's true.
Yeah, so you could be really good at printing, but who prints now? So even though you have a lot of experience in printing, but because we don't print now, your skills are no longer relevant. Right. It becomes very unfortunate. So if you don't upskill, you don't learn yourself, you become, when the world is progressing and you're not moving ahead, right? You are regressing. Yeah. So it's the cold hard truth out there right now, and we see how fast the world is moving, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when it comes to media,
there was a time where we said that artists and musicians, right, will never be replaced by technology.
Look at AI music now.
Yeah, so right now I could even get my students to write a chemistry song using AI. And it's quite fantastic what a robot can actually do for you. So how do we then repurpose ourselves and make ourselves relevant in this age with the advent of AI?
I always like to, because some of my clients are in the older age group, so they will know this artist called Madonna.
Madonna, yes.
She's icon.
My daughter don't know who she is.
Yes.
Can you imagine? It's a totally different generation.
Yes, but Madonna, since she started off in the 80s and up to now, she's still the pop icon. If you look at her career, she reinvented herself every 10 years. So she started like a virgin and then become a bad girl and then become a diva.
That's true. Wow, I didn't see it that way.
So even artists have to constantly reinvent. Otherwise, they will also be phased out.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about it, Taylor Swift is very good at it.
Is it?
Because she used to be very popular during our time, right?
Yes.
But then now,
And she's
the younger generation loves her.
Yes.
But how did
she's always relevant?
She reinvented herself as well.
Yeah.
It went from the country girl to now there's this pop idol that everybody just wants to look like and be like.
Yeah.
So yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I think as parents also, like, you know, right now I have teenagers, right? They have all these like millennial language that they use.
It's not
Gen Z. Millennial is me. Gen Z. Okay, so the Gen Z language, and I don't
Skibidi-doo.
want. Yeah, skibidi.
It's like pop off or
Oh,
like
skibidi or like.
Yeah.
And
Riz.
yeah, you know, all this. I don't want to be lost. You know, I want to still be included and to still be relevant. And I think that it's important to be included as your child grows, because you can then know everything that they are doing.
And you'll be the
outside.
cool mom and the cool teacher that they want to share stuff with you, right?
Yeah,
So you don't
exactly. We want them
you
to
don't
tell
lose
us
out
things.
on
Yeah,
that
you don't lose out.
information.
That's where lifelong learning comes in. That's where critical thinking comes in. That's where resilience comes in. Yeah, so I think it's really important for us to be mindful of that, and the value of being humble enough to learn, humble enough to admit that, hey, for me to progress to level 2 of my life, I need to change certain things. I need to learn from certain people. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's the more you learn, you are actually you know that you are going to be the best version of yourself. Like whatever career you are in, if you know that you're lacking something, you know yourself that you're lacking this. And if you were to do something about it, you know that you are going to be a better version of yourself in the future.
Yeah,
and I think
it's
that's very important for us to note as well, to also understand and admit that you are lacking something.
Yeah.
It starts with yourself. So as long as you believe in it, you are curious, you want to find out the answers, there will be enough resources to support you.
Right.
Yeah, and there are so many platforms out there.
Yeah, I always say that if you are living in Singapore, there's no reason for you to tell me that you can't learn. Because so long as you have a working internet, you can learn.
She's a teacher already.
Yeah.
Sounds like she's an educator.
And speaking of that, right, you know what gives me the greatest what's the most heartwarming thing to see when your students write notes to you on Teachers' Day, right?
What would that
please
be?
tell me.
Yeah.
So I'll tell my
So
children to do
there are students
that.
say thank you for teaching me this. We have students who say thank you for helping me pass my exams. But there are students who also say thank you for making me enjoy learning.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think
that's
those
so
are the
sweet.
message that really makes me reflect and think, what did I do right with this class or this child?
It's very transformative because once a child understands the joy of learning, lifelong learning becomes no issue for them when they enter into adulthood.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also very validating as well to know that, because what you're doing is absolutely different from what most teachers do, right? You're taking learning into a different platform on YouTube,
Online.
online, which is absolutely unusual, and to get validated like that, I think that
so nice.
I
is
really
very
want to let
nice.
them know that learning doesn't have to happen in the classroom, and in the future they have to learn on their own. Yeah, so I think this gets them started to be exposed to information beyond just the textbooks, and this sense of curiosity will take them far eventually.
And you're also teaching them learn how to critical thinking also includes letting them be aware of how to curate information that they have learned. Because there's so much information that's out there. How do I know that I'm learning the right things, or is this aligned with who I am as a person? So the family teaches values. The school also can teach values and critical thinking at the same time. You need to learn how to filter certain things, right? That every information is out there online.
Curating
Right?
is very important.
Curating is
Yes,
important. Learning the
absolutely.
right things is also very important. So that goes into lifelong learning too, I believe.
And then with that, we would like to close this podcast. I think everyone has shared such meaningful topics and such meaningful stuff that we can all learn from. And we should know that learning does not stop in school.
Yep.
It continues on as long as we live.
Yes.
And that's the only way that we can thrive in this ever-changing world. And yeah, I think the three of you are living examples of
Including yourself.
yes, learning beyond school. And thank you so much for taking time off to do this with us and
Thank you for
sharing
having
your
us.
stories.
Thank you.
I think we learn a lot. I personally learn a lot from this chat,
too.
especially
Me too,
with
me too.
Samantha.
I like the half-life example.
Yeah,
I'll bring it
I love
back and
that.
share it
Yeah,
with
I
my
love
students.
that.
Thank you so much, Jansen. Thank you, Nurul.
Thank
and thank you,
you.
Samantha.
Thank you,
this has been
Constance.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much
everyone.
for
Thank
sharing
you,
today.
everyone.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys love this podcast, please share it to someone who needs it, or just share it, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for joining us. There's a lot more to come. Stay tuned.